The person who got the promotion prepared less than you, delivered less than you, and everyone in that room knew it. That is not a wound you are imagining. That is not you being bitter or ungenerous. That is just a fact the company will never say out loud, because the company doesn't have to. It has a different language for what just happened, and that language sounds almost nothing like the truth. You did everything right. You documented your work. You hit your numbers. You stayed late on the project no one else wanted to touch. You sent the follow-up email, prepared the slide deck nobody asked for, and walked into that conversation ready. And still, the decision landed somewhere else, on someone who coasted through Q3, who you have personally covered for twice, who gave a 5-minute answer in a meeting that you had prepared a 30-minute presentation for. And they called it leadership potential. This story is not going to tell you what you did wrong. You didn't do anything wrong. This story is going to show you what was actually being measured, because it was never what they told you it was. You have been in this role for 3 years. You know it better than your manager does, and your manager knows that too. So you keep preparing for every meeting like you're defending a thesis. Extra context, pre-answered objections, backup data sitting in a tab you never end up needing. You reread your emails before you send them. Not once, twice, sometimes 3 times. You edit the tone. You remove anything that could sound too sharp, too direct, too certain. You water yourself down slightly every single day and call it professionalism. You arrive before most people. You leave after most people. You cover the gaps nobody announces because somebody has to, and the somebody always turns out to be you. In meetings, you offer something useful and watch it land in silence. Then, 10 minutes later, someone else says a version of the same thing, slightly louder, slightly more casually, and the room nods, and someone writes it on the whiteboard, and you sit there and say nothing, because you have done this enough times to know exactly how it goes. You started keeping notes, not because you planned to complain, because you needed to check whether you were imagining it. Then there's your colleague. Call her Diane. Diane booked a hair appointment on a Tuesday afternoon, walked out at 2, came back at 4, smelling like conditioner and completely unbothered. By Friday, she had been named to the cross-functional committee you had been quietly positioning yourself for since January. 6 months of careful, methodical effort from you. 1 Tuesday afternoon for her. You got a calendar invite with her name on it and a Slack message with a celebration emoji, and you stared at both longer than you want to admit. Diane is not a villain. She's not plotting against you. She doesn't seem to notice that anything particular has happened. That's the part that's hardest to explain to anyone who hasn't felt it. It's not that someone is working against you. It's that someone else doesn't have to work at all and still keeps winning. So you do what the system trained you to do. You push harder, more preparation, more follow-up, more output. And the system is perfectly fine with that. It takes everything you give and reclassifies it as the baseline. Here is the thing nobody said to you directly. The promotion was never going to be decided based on your performance. Performance is not the variable being measured. Not really. Not finally. The decision was made before the official conversation happened. It was made in a hallway you weren't in, at a lunch you weren't invited to, in a thread you were never added to. By the time your manager sat across from you to discuss next steps, the outcome was already settled. The meeting wasn't a decision. It was a delivery. Visibility is not the same as reputation. Visibility means social proximity to the people who decide things. It means being in the room before the agenda is set. It means your name being said casually and warmly by someone senior before the formal question is even raised. You have a reputation. You do not have that kind of visibility. And in most organizations, the gap between those two things is where careers quietly stop moving. Culture fit sounds like a compliment. It is not neutral. What it actually means is, does being around this person feel easy and comfortable and familiar to the people who are already in power? Merit exists, but it operates inside a container. The container is social access. If you don't have the container, your merit just sits there, uncollected, undiscovered, quietly attributed to someone else. The less qualified person didn't win despite doing less. She won because doing less was never the part being scored. And she has something you don't. Not talent, not results, not seniority. She has a sponsor. Not a mentor, a sponsor. There is a difference most organizations will never explain to you. A mentor tells you what to work on. A sponsor says your name in a room you are not in a tone that closes arguments. Your manager respects your work. He tells you so periodically. He does nothing with that respect when it matters. Respect without advocacy is just politeness. You need someone who spends political capital on you when you're not watching. You have never had that. You don't even know whose name it would be. Now here is the cost, and this part matters because it is not just about the promotion. Your nervous system has reorganized itself around this environment. You are not just tired. You are hypervigilant. You are reading every room before you enter it, calculating who is in a difficult mood, what tone to use, whether to speak first or wait. You are doing this before 9 a.m., before coffee, before anything has even happened yet. Sleep has started going. You replay conversations at night. Not conversations that went badly, just conversations. Looking for what you might have missed. What could have been read wrong? You're editing yourself in the dark. You've started wondering if you're becoming difficult, if you're too much, if the version of yourself that started this job 3 years ago has quietly become someone less appealing. You are not becoming difficult. You are hypervigilant. Those two things feel similar from the inside and are not the same at all. Hypervigilance is what happens when an environment is socially unpredictable, and you have learned, correctly, that the margin for error is not distributed equally. Diane missed a project deadline last quarter. Her manager sent her a gentle check-in. You once sent a deliverable 4 hours late because of a genuine family emergency and received a formal note in your file about reliability. Same company, same HR policies, same employee handbook. Different social position inside the organization. She is inside the margin of forgiveness the system extends to people it has quietly decided to protect. You are not. This is not melodrama. This is how the same organization treats two different people simultaneously, every single day, without anyone ever announcing that it's happening. Burnout in this kind of environment is not only about the hours, it is about the tax. The tax of navigating a workplace that charges more from some people than others for the exact same journey. Long hours are exhausting. Long hours with no safety net, inside a social hierarchy you were never given a map to, while watching someone beside you travel the same distance with no toll. That is a different kind of exhaustion, and it compounds. The system is not broken. That is what you need to understand. And it changes everything once you do. The system is working exactly as it was built to work. It protects the people who feel safe and familiar to the people already inside it. It promotes whoever feels like a low-risk, low-friction choice to the people who own the rooms. Safe is not a synonym for qualified. It never was. HR is not going to correct this. When you bring a vague concern about fairness, what HR processes is a liability question, not a justice question. Performance review language is architecture. It is built to justify decisions that were already made on social grounds using vocabulary that sounds objective. The language is very good. It was designed to be. The less qualified person is not the problem. She is a symptom. The problem is the decision infrastructure that made her the obvious, unremarkable, easy choice before anyone had to make a formal argument. Once you see the actual board, not the one printed in the employee handbook, the real one, you stop spending energy looking for what you did wrong. You start reading where access lives. Whose names get said in which rooms? Who is carrying political weight on your behalf? And whether the answer to that is nobody, that is not cynicism. That is the correct map of the building you are actually in. And the correct map is the only thing in that building that was ever going to be genuinely useful to you. You see it now. That changes how you move.